I call this meeting to order. I'd like to take a roll call of the committee members. Please say that you're here. James Boscario, Maria Ferraro,
Here.
Val Bernoni,
Here.
and Vince Marcotte. Here. Ryan Tufts, Planning Technician, Secretary Treasurer of the Committee of Adjustment.
Present.
Alan Burgess, Supervisor of Planning and Development.
Present.
And Christina Bursick, Manager of Planning and Development.
Here.
And I'm your chair, Teresa Nicodemo. I'd like to read the Land Acknowledgement Act. We acknowledge that the ground on which we live is in the traditional territory of Caldwell First Nation of the Three Fires Confederacy and the original people of Point Pelee and Pelee Island and its surrounding lands and waters, and that of the Huron, Wendat, and Wyandot peoples. We recognize and respect the First Nations who are stewards of the land and waters of Turtle Island and who have embraced the stewardship since time immemorial. We would also like to acknowledge the contributions of other nearby First Nation communities and all original people across Turtle Island. And the appeal notice. As a result of provincial changes to the Planning Act, only the applicant and select agencies may appeal a decision of the committee or one or more of the conditions which were imposed. Third-party appeals of consent and or minor variances, such as neighbors abutting property owners, are no longer allowed to be accepted by the OLT. All applications continue to be subject to a 20-day appeal period and a written request to receive a copy of the decision, and the fee for filing an appeal may be obtained from the Secretary Treasurer. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interests?
None received.
And, okay, so noted. I'd like to adopt the minutes from the August 16 meeting. Is there a motion? Moved by Jim and seconded by Maria. And is that all in favor? Okay, that is carried. Mr. Tufts, are there any questions for deferral or withdrawal of any application?
Also none received.
So noted. So tonight, the first application for consideration is B-11-2023, file 4168, and A-04-2023, file 4170. The owner is Royal Oak Luxury Builders at 316 and 320 Huron Street. It's a consent to sever an existing semi and a minor variance for a reduced lot area. Mr. Tufts, to make a presentation on the applications.
Okay, so we have consent to sever a semi and a minor variance for reduced lot area on Huron Street. Subject lands are designated residential district in the town's official plan, and they're zoned residential 1 in the town's zoning bylaw. In the residential 1 zone, singles and semis are permitted. The next slide shows the proposed severance outlined in red, which would be part 4. Purpose of this application is to sever a semi-detached dwelling that's already been constructed. The variance is considered minor, as the decreased lot area will not adversely impact the surrounding neighbors. The mass of the semi-detached dwelling does not create a greater impact on the surrounding residents than a single detached dwelling, as all setbacks have been met. The semi-detached dwelling exceeds all the yard requirements in the residential 1 zone. In other zones in the town, there are reduced lot area sizes with no negative impacts. Should this application be approved, we would recommend that they provide us with a survey, that all items of the previous severance agreement that they've entered with the town have been complied with, and that the above would be fulfilled on or before 2 years from today's date. And for the minor variance, that the consent be approved, and again, that they have 2 years to fulfill those conditions.
Mr. Paul Crema is here. The owner agent, you may now speak to the matter, and please introduce yourself in a brief explanation of your application, and please confirm you have read and understood the staff report.
Hi, my name is Paul Crema. I have read the staff report and I agree with the recommendations.
Okay, so you have nothing, no comments. All right, so does the committee have any questions for Mr. Crema? And does the committee have any questions for administration? Okay. All right, so Ms. Marcotte has moved the application for approval. Is it seconded by Val Bernoni? And that's all in favor? All right, and that's been approved as per the recommendation. So thank you very much for coming in. Good luck. Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, we need one for the consent and one for the variance.
My apologies. We first have to vote on 4168, the consent, and that's the one that you had done. Okay. Now we're going to vote on the lot reduction and minor variance. File 4170, and has that like to move? To vote, Maria? Okay, moved and seconded by Jim Boscariel, and all in favor. And that has been carried as well. Thank you again for coming in. Thank you. So the next application is B-12-2023, file 4169, the owner Paul Madeline Beneteau on Snake Lane. Application for consent to create easements for existing water lines. Mr. Tuft, make a presentation on the application. Thank you.
Okay, so we have consent to establish easements for 2 existing water lines. Yep. We have consent to establish easements for existing water lines. The subject lands are designated agriculture and wetland in the town's official plan, and they're zoned natural environment in the town's zoning bylaw. This is the draft survey that's been provided by the applicant and shows the 2 proposed water lines that are shown in red. The proposed permanent easements provide the ability for maintenance and protection of the existing water services for the homes on Short Snake Lane. If the application is approved, we would recommend that they provide us with a survey and that they provide that within 2 years of today's date.
And Mr. Mike Stokes is here, the agent. You may now speak to the matter. Please introduce yourself in a brief explanation of your application, and please confirm you have read, understood the staff report.
I'm not sure. Can you hear me? I couldn't tell if it was on. Yes, my name is Michael Stokes. I'm the agent for the applicants. I have read the report. I completely agree with the recommendations that are being made. I'm available for any questions that you might have of me.
Does the committee have any questions for Mr. Stokes? And any questions for the administration? Yes.
Brian, how old is the line? You said it's an existing line, right? The water line.
Through your chair, I'm trying to recall, I believe they were both placed and they were both drilled, and I believe they were in the mid-2000s or late 1990s, if I recall correctly. We can confirm. And again, basically what what these easements will do is that even if the current party who owns this property were to sell this lot, the easements will protect those water mains those water services, and allow them to re-drill if necessary, because it is a wetland and because it has other naturalized features. They wouldn't do an open cut type construction for the water lines. They would basically set up a drill rig on the canard side, or Snake Lane side, drill under the canard and then come up on the other side and stay within the corridors that they've established. So Hopefully that helps. So it does, even if they are older than my recollection, they would still, even if there was a fault or a failure, those owners will be able to resurface their lots once again with these easements.
Okay, then just to confirm again, the lines, water services are going from Snake Lane, from that service,
Yeah,
going
so
across the water, under the water.
under the water to these lots.
Another question, if I may. There are several homes on that that route. I'm talking about Short Snake Lane. How are they connected?
I'm not positive. I did take a look briefly with Ryan at the services. I believe there are independent services going under the canard as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe, and if you kind of go back in the history, Short Snake Lane, or not, yeah, Short Snake Lane, I don't believe, it was a given road at one time. And there was issues with the ability to bring municipal services through that. I know later on, they've done some dedications. I worked with some of the owners. So, again, I can definitely get back to you with some more information. But for the purposes of this, these two properties will be serviced by these two independent lines. So if there's ever an issue or a concern, they would be able to reinstall them.
Because the reason I was asking, because these other homes on that street, they're either connected to the Bento or Baudouins, or they've got, not illegal, but just connections that have no protection for them. But I mean, it's not our issue here tonight, but I'm just wondering if, will there be others coming forward?
At this point, we're not sure. So again, we can take a look at some of those other services.
It's more a
Really,
council problem than.
Really, it's exactly. If there are existing services and they are crossing properties for which that they don't own the property of, they would have to seek out ideally an easement. Keep in mind, some of those may have even been placed on unregistered easements where they were 21 years less a day. In those cases, they don't have to be bound by the committee. They're just private easements that individual would then have to try to renegotiate at a later date. So hopefully that's of some assistance.
Am I correct in assuming that the easement is encompassed totally on private lands? When I see the word marsh, I have to ask that question because if the MOE or Essex Region Conservation is involved, it's a whole different issue.
It's my understanding that the marsh that's referred to is actually is part of the private parcel of land. To the extent that the easement runs under the canard, my understanding is that that's a navigable body of water and it's not owned by anyone, or it's governed by the federal crown. But no, the remainder of the marshland is owned by the some collection of the Benetos. Sorry, I was trying to remember. What actually happened here is that my clients owned property on one side of the canard, a large farm property, and this smaller parcel, which is where the marshland is and which is on the other side of the canard and on Snake Lane. And the water lines were actually run across their own property, their own other parcel of land, and under the canard. And the concern that they're having is that they want to be sure that just in case they sell the property,
I get that.
that they'll still be able to have access to their water lines that service the existing house on the other side of the river.
No, I can understand the whys and wherefores of it for sure.
Okay.
I would do the same probably, so. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So having heard any comments or concerns made by administration, agencies, and the public, is the committee ready to make a decision? And is there a motion? Moved by Maria, seconded by Jim. All in favor? And that is carried. Okay, thank you. As per the recommendations, so thank you. Date of the next meeting is November 22nd, 2023. Is there a motion to adjourn? Moved by Vince, seconded by Val, and all in favor? That is carried, and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much for coming.